Back here on Game Day Recap, Drake Maye didn't have his best outing against the Falcons. He even talked about it after the game. He's got to be better to put their team in better situations, but they still got a win. And really, it was a small blip in an otherwise encouraging season out in Foxborough. He threw for 259 yards, 2 touchdowns on 19 of 29 for the day. And as you take a look at the odds to win the MVP, we just saw what Josh Allen was able to do against the Chiefs. He is the favorite currently at plus 150, but then you find Drake Maye, and you find Drake Maye ahead of Patrick Mahomes, who did not have a great game today. Matthew Stafford, who has been electric. Justin Herbert also on this list. So certainly interesting when it comes to Drake Maye and his development in year 2. And as I mentioned going into the break, Drake Maye just one of, 6 guys to go in the first round of last year's draft in terms of quarterbacks. So we're going to talk about 3 of those guys because I think it gets lost in the sauce, the Jaden Daniels of it all in that draft class. But Drake, JJ, and Bo Nix, all with unique stories and journeys to this point. So let's start with Drake Maye, guys. Obviously, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't perfect, but he was able to get the 2 touchdowns for the day. The Patriots are sitting pretty right now, tied atop at the AFC East there. Danny, what'd you like about Drake Maye and the Patriots?
So the thing I love about Drake Maye is he was my favorite quarterback coming out of this quarterback class. But after last year, I'm like, man, is he going to be okay? Is he going to be able to rebound after he was in a bad spot? And I do think this just goes to show you yet again, we see so many different stories that young quarterbacks are only as good as your supporting cast and your coaching staff and the job they do bringing you along. Because now that he's in a winning culture and a guy like Mike Vrabel comes in there and he's running an offense that really is suited to his style, you're seeing him start to finally reach his full potential. And to the point of him being an MVP candidate potentially, today was his 8th straight game with 200 pass yards and over 100 passer rating. The other guys that have been able to do that, there are 4 other players with a single season streak of 8+. They all won MVP that season. So Drake Maye is looking, if he can continue this type of play, he is very much in play for the MVP, which is a phenomenal story in just year 2.
He has led this team to a 6-game winning streak, the longest since 2021. Rand, how far can this Patriots team go?
This team can really make some noise, and not only in their division and win the division and potentially host a playoff game, but they can go deep into the tournament. And Danny hit it. This is a very well-coached football team, and you can just tell situationally when certain situations come up, because they have a lot of key veterans, but a lot of their guys that they really lean on are young guys, and you could tell that they are prepared every week heading into a game. And for a guy like Drake Maye to be partnered with Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels, like you will be ready to play the quarterback position, come game day. So I love where he is. Like Danny, I didn't have him as the #1 quarterback coming out, but I remember going in the year prior to see Josh Downs and standing there at practice, and I'm like, who is this kid? Because I think he was a freshman at the time, and just watching him throw live and then going back and watching the tape and how deadly accurate he was, how his ball placement was unlike anybody I had seen up until that point in college football, and now you're starting to see those tools. And Danny, you said it, like it's all coming together for him. I still think they need weapons around him.
Yeah. I was going to say, Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas
had a good day today.
He did?
Yes, he
But
did.
imagine what he can do if he had, better weapons around him.
I still think that they can add better weapons around him, and how much. I'm just thinking about the picture and what this is going to look like. We remember Tom Brady. They won Super Bowls, but then the picture became completely different when you added a Wes Welker, you added a Randy Moss. It completely changed the complexity of that offense, and I think we're just seeing the very beginning of what this team can be.
I love what he is. Revisionist history, you saying you had him as your #1 quarterback. Okay. No, you did.
I did. Thank you.
You did.
All right, just making sure.
But when we rush to judgment on teams, we always do. I just want to read you. This is who they beat. I mean, I got to be real. I love Mike Vrabel. I love what Drake Maye's doing. They're a good football team. You can only beat who's on your schedule. But lost to the Raiders in week 1. Beat Miami. Lost to Pittsburgh. Then this is who they ripped off their wins against. Carolina, Buffalo, which is a great
on the
win.
road.
At New Orleans, at Tennessee, Cleveland at home, and Atlanta at home. It isn't exactly a murderer's schedule. We'll find out more about them next week, because where do they go?
Bucks.
At Tampa.
Yep. But here's the thing about winning. It becomes contagious. Like, momentum works Either if the season starts coming off the rails, all of a sudden you feel like you can't win, you can't beat anybody. But when you start stacking wins on wins, all of a sudden you feel like you can beat anybody. And I think this team is playing with a ton of confidence right now. That's where I think that is the most valuable asset is winning games, finding different ways to win.
At what point for the New England Patriots, where do they have to win in order for us to see you eat more paper with hot sauce?
No, I'm not eating more paper. I almost choked on that paper. That would have been
hot sauce was hot.
No, but I will say this, though. If they win at Tampa, then they have the Jets, at Cincinnati, and the Giants before their bye week. If they win that game, that means they're probably going to go into their bye week with 10 straight wins, right? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
So
Bucks, if they beat the Bucks, yes,
yeah,
I agree with you.
They're going to go in on a 10-game winning streak to their bye, and all of a sudden you look at them and you go,
by the way,
they're going to be a playoff team. B, they might be the division winner, and C, they might be the #1 seed in the AFC.
By the way, can't you do this with a lot of teams because this is the way it's set up to help teams turn around and create the parity and give everybody a shot?
But no, what we're saying here is they played well, but they haven't exactly beat a lot of good teams.
What does Pete like to say when we're in the back and we're choosing between the low-hanging fruit?
Low-hanging. Yeah. I was trying to figure out which Peteism you were going.
That take is low-hanging fruit.
It is.
that take is low-hanging fruit.
They win their games. That's all you can do.
And
Kudos
just like the
to
Colts.
them.
Look, we had this conversation.
I was just looking at the Colts. Who have they beaten?
And we found out a little bit about the Colts, did we not?
We did.
We're going to talk about them in just a minute. I do want to steer us back to those quarterbacks that we were talking about. It is interesting, though, when you look at Drake Maye and what they've been able to do. J.J. McCarthy, kind of a different story, right? And misses all of last year with the knee injury, and then he comes back and misses the beginning of this year with the ankle injury. But he returns today, Danny, and he takes down a Lions team that has been so explosive. I mean, Amon-Ra, I know he got kind of banged up, but he was almost non-existent in that game. J.J. McCarthy, 143 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have the 1 rushing touchdown as well, too. What'd you think of J.J. in his return?
I thought he was really impressive. Going on the road against one of the better defenses and one of the better teams in the entire National Football League. And I thought he's plays with a ton of confidence. The throw he made to Justin Jefferson was a great ball. Now you're throwing to Justin on the outside. He made a great catch there, but he's throwing the ball with a ton of confidence. He is not afraid to take many of those chances because he does have some really good weapons out there. He knows what he can do mobility-wise because he can escape and run, and it was his first time back in the lineup for a while. So I thought this was huge for his confidence. I don't think he lacks any, but I still see a young player who's a little bit more volatile out there. You get some good throws, you get some bad throws. He's got to get more consistent, but I think he is playing with a ton of confidence right now for a young quarterback.
Haley, I know you want to talk about quarterbacks. I know this. But we talked about Ben Johnson being in his bag.
Yeah.
Brian Flores was in his bag today. Because that is probably the most uncomfortable I've seen Jared Goff in a very long time. And they were not afraid to send pressure after man up on the outside on all those weapons that the Detroit Lions have. And they were able to contain that run game, which is huge for stopping this team. So as much as I want to give JJ his props and his credit for the performance today, it was that defense that held it down for him. And Brian Flores was really in his bag today.
It was 5 sacks. 2 by the line by Eric Wilson, on blitzes, so you could tell he was coming after him, and he just looked uncomfortable the entire day. Back to J.J. McCarthy. We watched that whole game, and we're sitting there, we're going, wow, what a great throw. And then you go, what is he doing?
Right.
And what a great throw, and what is he doing? And then you look up at his numbers, 143 yards passing. And it was manage the game type of stuff for him, but it's only his, third game? Yeah. It's his 3rd game. So we got to see him grow. There was a lot of good to like, but there's also a lot of bad. For me, I'm with you. This was about the defense. And for the Vikings to go in and win that game the way they did that tells you a lot about Brian Flores as defensive coordinator.
I want to pose a question to the table because we're at this phase. We got to talk about it Tuesday, the trade deadline. If you're Minnesota, are you active at the trade deadline looking for another quarterback as a backup option, just in case something happens to JJ and you want to keep this momentum going?
Give me a name, like
I'm not
Kirk Cousins.
No.
Just depth. You're talking about a depth chart guy, yes, because Carson Wentz done right.
Whether it's Jameis Winston, whether it's Russell Wilson.
Because you got a rookie backup too.
And JJ's already dealt with injuries, so he's not.
And they like the rookie a lot. Some people supposedly have compared him to Brock Purdy. Think about that. So I probably wouldn't, to be honest with you. I don't, because if you're playing with those guys, you're in trouble anyways, aren't you?
Well, I think just from an experience standpoint, and with the weapons that they do have on this offense and that defense, that if JJ goes down, right, you still have a season that's salvageable and that you can win games. We just saw them win games with Carson Wentz. Right, and they made that move specifically to go get a veteran in the event something happens.
I just don't know who you got. Like Jameis Winston's not going to be traded. They've said that, so he's not.
Well,
so,
I'm
with you though. I agree because I'm not. Brosmer's not the guy. I would go. Absolutely. All these other guys are out there throwing for 40 yards and 40 plus. I'll do it at 50
not
plus.
That much.
Right?
Exactly. This is the era of the old guy quarterback.
Right. Let's go. I'll go do it.
Not that old, but
they can't hit you above the shoulder.
Exactly. They can't touch you anywhere.
So
exactly.
You can rip it for 220. Yes. You can throw for 140. I guarantee you that.
We watched Joe Flacco do it as well.
Right.
You can get out there. You can get it done. We would love to see Danny come out of retirement. Right? You're trying to get Rana job.
Let's go.
I think Pete just don't want to work with us.
I know.
I want to work with you guys. I'll just be in the same seat dying here in about 10 years.
All right, at the beginning of the show, I teased a crazy stat for the folks at home when it comes to the Denver Broncos, and I told you this when we were sitting. Going into the fourth quarter ahead of today, the Broncos were 3-0, guys, when trailing in the fourth quarter. Obviously, that now becomes 4-0 today after Bo Nix once again gets it done. And Danny, Bo Nix is so interesting to me when you look at him in relation to the rest of that quarterback class, right? Because Sean Payton joked that he was an orphan puppy, that he brought him back home, and now he's flourishing, right? But it hasn't. It's been really wild. The first three quarters are terrible, but get him to the fourth, and it's spectacular.
I think it's a great thing, though. I think he is sort of a gamer. And you want to see quarterbacks who don't flinch when they're faced with adversity, because a lot of quarterbacks, if they have 3 bad quarters, they are in the can. They are done for the day. That is not the case with Bo Nix, who keeps plugging away, keeps running around, keeps making plays, and almost plays better when the chips are stacked against him. The trick that Sean Payton has to do is how do you get him to feel that way from the start of the game so they don't have these, because a lot of these games they're trailing in the fourth quarter are against bad football teams. So they've got to get more consistency from Bo Nix and get him to start making some of the routine plays earlier in the game so that you're not having to make the heroic plays late in the game.
I'm going to steal a line from Pete. Pete's line, you are who you are. What we're seeing out of Bo Nix is what caused evaluators to struggle evaluating him coming out. Because this is flashes of what you saw at Auburn. You saw the brilliance, the playmaking ability, but then you saw those head-scratching throws. And once he got to Oregon, he became a little bit more consistent. But then from the evaluation standpoint, it's like, okay, which one are we going to get? And so now we see that on a week-to-week basis in quarters 1 through 3. We see the Auburn version of Bo Nix, where you see some playmaking ability, and then the Oregon Bo Nix comes out in the fourth quarter where he's calm, he's under control, and he's not flinching, like you said. And so Sean will figure this out, because that's what Sean does. And this defense, like we've talked about with a lot of these other teams, this defense is lights out. And so once they get him under control and get him to playing more consistent, this Denver team is going to be a problem.
He's got to start hitting the deep passes. And we can go back to this game and we look at it, and he had one little sequence where he missed a long shot, wide open, missed another long shot, wide open. Then he came back and he hit one. It was a touchdown. And you're sitting there going, okay, he's 1 for 3. But I think the consistency needs to be there. And if he gets the consistency, they're going to end up being a good football team. But right now, it's too maddening and it's too frenetic. It's not quarterbacking the way you want to see it until you have to in the fourth quarter. And you look at that game-winning drive for the field. He had a 26-yard run. It wasn't like he threw it all over the place. It was a typical Bo Nix.
Right.
In the pocket,
well, that's what I was going to say. A lot of the fourth quarter plays are playground football, where he's just kind of running around, making plays. He's got to play better from within the system. And let's remember, he didn't beat C.J. Stroud because he was knocked out of the game.
Yeah,
Hated
that's where I
seeing
was
that
going next.
after C.J. had his best game of the season last week and a big win. To see him knocked out of this game, hated seeing that for C.J.
C.J. Stroud's mother did post a selfie with him, 4 selfies technically, but said he is okay in concussion protocol. Davis Mills did come in that one. One last thing on the Broncos here before we hit a break. Now the most game-winning drives in the NFL this season, they are tied with the Bucs. So Pete, I'll give you last word here. And it seems so silly now that I'm about to say it out loud, but when you compare what the Bucs are doing to what the Broncos are doing, I believe they have the same record, but they've done it in different ways. So which side are you leaning in terms of a team you like better?
The Bucs.
Oh, easy.
It's the Bucs.
I know. As soon as I asked it, I was like,
once the Bucs get healthy, it's definitely the Bucs. But I mean, look, this defense is really good in Denver. But again, I got to see more from the offense. I'm worried about their offense consistency. Do they run the ball well enough? Do they throw it well enough? Sean Payton schemes open guys, and he's just not hitting them. So I definitely say the Bucs.
All right, I agree. Like I said, as soon as I asked it, I was like, that was a meaty question. All right, let's hit a break here on Game Day Recap. Speaking of the Colts, no good today. Boy, Windiana Jones did not pick up a win today. We're going to break down what went wrong for Indiana and what went right for Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers next on Game Day Recap.